Whew. My god, was it a weird fucking party last night. Oh my god. It's all kind of a blur, but I feel that by sharing the story, the pieces will fill in. So I went to this guy's house. I met him at the park the other day. He was dancing in a very weird form, moving first very strangely, jagged, kind of retarded, and when I say kind of, I mean very retarded looking. He was letting this shitty, just like a bunch of sound fall out of his mouth. It sounded horrible. But the more he got into it, it was like the sound found the melody and his body found the movement, and it actually began enveloping, transforming, unfolding into a very beautiful display. And in the midst of the display, he would be weaving out of, making music with his mouth, beatboxing with, almost like a tribal type of chanting that I didn't understand. And then he would weave into English, and the English wouldn't necessarily make sense, but it would be like he was throwing words as paint and into abstraction, and the abstraction would it was like all these words would trigger these emotions within, and then he would take that feeling like a room, like a lens that he had just dropped me into, and twist it and morph it with his body, with his music, back in abstraction. It was really interesting. I began playing along. I don't know what inspired me to do it, but he posed a question to me in some gibberish tongue, and I responded in gibberish, and then I began dancing, and we began doing the performance with him. And the next thing I knew, we were both up on the stage, and we're both doing the whole thing, and it was almost as if there were moments of complete synchronicity, like we'd rehearsed it, just totally randomly. And it led me down an insane rabbit hole, like I'd been just thrown through this wormhole and watched a movie unfold. And with each dance, there was like a new, or with each tone, with each time that he would shift into and out of English, it was like the triggering of a new scene, and each scene would have this quite elaborate story unfold before me. And, well, basically, in the midst of this, he said, okay, now we're gonna go on the journey. And I was very excited. I love journeys, right? So I said, let's go, darling. And I don't know why I said it like that, but it felt right. So we both started making swirly, gurgly sounds into the air, and both in perfect sync for some reason. It was so strange. And all of a sudden, the clouds actually began shifting, and it looked as if like they got incredibly dense, like it was about to drop a heavy rain in this one space. There was even lightning combusting in that one space that we were focusing on, and then through that one space, it was the density of the clouds just amplified beyond clouds into a solid form. It was like a shimmery metallic disc, like I could see a rippling reflection of myself, kind of like a mirrored texture within it. And then in the center of the disc, once I began actually making out my own eyes, it was just like this opening appeared, almost like the beginning trickling of slow-mo dripping of lightning, and then from that one space, a cascade of it was lightning in the vibrant color and the piercing electricity of it, but it was the form was actually very swirly, almost like long strands of hair with varying different opacities, and they would swirl around each other first abstractly, but all moving down and getting bigger, orbiting each other, revolving like smoke, doing a like smoke emerging from the top of a chimney, from one point, and then but it was reversed, anti-gravity, so it was coming down towards us as we were calling it in. It came around us, and we began dancing with it, swirling it around our bodies, moving it, passing it to each other, and every time that we did, it would amplify, 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 and then he showed me, he goes like this, woof, and it was like, in this motion, he separated the light, as if he was holding a prism, like in Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon album cover, where the light enters the triangle as white and then is refracted in a rainbow. He separated the different frequencies, the different frequential tonalities, and what was white turned into color, and that color, and then he put it back. And then I was like, oh shit, that's interesting, right? And so I do it. I go, and once I opened it, I kind of lost control of it. And it was kind of like the velocity and speed of the experience of opening it was way more than I expected, so it totally erupted all around us and blew us both entirely off of our feet. We're screaming, ah! Ah! And we're like running around, and it's like this thing actually became animated and became a creature of its own and became alive. And so we're like screaming, and I'm looking back, and it's like this thing of abstract coloration, forms of powerful cloud motions, was chasing me. And from this abstraction, it was like there would be hands emerging, form being synthesized through the layers of abstraction, faces coming out, creatures, mechanical objects, abstract forms like buildings or planes composing the matrix, and within the different planes, all these worlds, I could see infinitely through, but I didn't have very much time to look because I was running, because it was fucking scary. It was like a giant tiger, elephant bombarding, going mad, mother bear angry because you've just molested one of her baby cubs. So yeah, we were freaking out and running until it actually grabbed us, enveloped us, and then we're fighting it as if the dog is on top, and I've got the knife, and then wrangling, and then all of a sudden it just lulled, and I saw that this man, Hunter, he hadn't introduced his name at this point, but I knew his name was Hunter, just from the strange mind games we were doing. But Hunter all of a sudden held the head of this strange bunny creature with X's on its eyes, and it was just dripping abstraction, and the dripping, it was like he'd slain the beast, and then it was all of a sudden he brought all of it together, back into light, and then he was just shaking his head at me, extremely disappointed, and then he decides to take a moment of pause where he was incredibly sinister, like the Buddha, like Jesus. He was so composed, so present, so entirely true. He was the essence of truth itself. And in this moment, I knew that he saw straight through me, that he saw absolutely everything I am, unbound by everything I've been or anything I've ever done. He's seen the entirety of my past, even further back than I can remember, and he sees everything I'm moving into, the entirety of my future. And emanating from his eyes is just this unfathomable sense of love and holding, and just a cradling And it was like so deep and passionate that it just nearly brought me to my knees. Grateful that I was able to experience this embrace from another being. And then all of a sudden his eyes completely change and he goes batshit crazy. And he gets this like Mad Hatter animation. Lets out this absurd laugh. And then from his hands, whoop, he explodes another fucking apeshit creature at me. I start running around. And then I just realize, like, fuck this. I don't really need to be scared of this thing. It's color. So I turn around and I just, like, grab it. And I realized that it wasn't, angry. That it was my fear of it that was making it angry the whole time. So I grabbed it and I started dancing with it. Ooh, that was nice. Very nice. Yes, I did. Clear. I'm clear now. Yeah, so I started dancing with it, and the dance is very sensual. It was like this epic battle where two sides of the gods' kingdoms are colliding in space and time, a galaxy being torn apart by another, and then all of a sudden, it shifted. In what was an epic battle of madness and mania of two species fighting for dominance was collaboration, a shift, mercy, disarming, taking off all of the, dropping the weapons, taking off the armor, realizing that we cannot both prevent war and prepare for it at the same time. And in this communal realization, there was an invitation to dance. And so we did. And this mad, powerful, absurd, malevolent, I always get malevolent and benevolent. No, I think I got it right. Force shifted into beauty, into love, into sweet and just sensual unfolding like a flower. From one point all was collected, and from the center flower was an invitation to dance. And so I pulled these streams of intertwining, colorful, these intertwining, colorful, dynamic, breathing, pulsating, living strands of hair and color and motion, and in the extraction of them, I spun them with tone as music poured through my mouth, the music being the idea that shaped and crafted the matter before me. And it was like I'd entered a state of being in which matter was the frequency, or was rather I came into a state of perception of understanding that matter is merely frequency and we can play it as any instrument, and the music emanating and falling, cascading waterfalls from my mouth was the formation of the galaxies I was witnessing in the extraction of this magnificent matter, like pure imagination, and any vision that I had in my mind was embodied and formed within this matter instantly, magnificently, magically. It was so sensual and at the same time terrifying, because I realized I didn't have entire control of my thoughts, and sometimes they went, into dark places, and those would amplify themselves when I'd get scared. And when I got scared, it was like I would see this girl. Yeah. So I began creating these little worlds, little ecosystems, little plants and creatures, and then they formed into, they all combined and twisted around each other and morphed into a beautiful, beautiful goddess. And I start dancing with the goddess, holding the goddess, rubbing my body, touching, feeling the goddess, and his skin was so real, so vibrant, so electric, so magnified in its clarity, in its presence, in its sensuality. And then I pull away and I look into her eyes and I see a flash of terror. And obviously, I know that it's a reflection of my own perception towards the beloved, towards the goddess, towards these beauties in this reality. It's like this was my first known interaction with this experience in this lifetime. I knew that I'd known this goddess, this form, all of my life before I came here. And it was like, even though I can't say I've been in love in this lifetime, I felt the full experience of love, and I saw the love in her reflected in me, in my eye, and I saw the experience of myself in my entirety, unbound by everything that I think I am, everything that I've done. I see myself in you, completely naked. And that is fucking terrifying, to have my heart wide open to the world's eyes, to be entirely unveiled and seen in front of another being. Fucking terrifying. Love. What is love? It is just one giant blanketing term that encompasses an ocean of infinity, intertwining the vast expanse of all it means to be human being and what it is we are feeling, the full spectrum. To love is to witness the full experience of human being, of expression of the emotion we are capable of connecting with in this form. Love is hate at the same time. They dance together. If I give... Hate is fear. If I give myself to love you, I open myself to a state of vulnerability. I give you my heart to hold in your hand. And in doing so, in loving you and giving you the permission to love me, I give you permission to break me, to crush my heart, to drop it and watch me bleed upon the floor. And in loving you, there's nothing more terrifying than loving you, than giving myself to you so vulnerably and knowing that at some point you will break me. And the goddess turned into the madness, the angry abstraction, the chaos, the terror, the demons, the pedophile. It turned into the entire experience of terror, the deepest core of it that we can experience. And I became the victim of the demon. I became the victim of the murderer, the pedophile, the terrorizer, terrorizing me. But the entire time I saw that, there was a very strange detachment from the terror because of what I had just experienced. That to give in to the terror and feel the terror is to amplify it. And I can amplify. I know that I have the choice, the ability to amplify any element of it, any element of this spectrum of love that I choose. And so I chose to accept, to embrace, to honor the terror within the love, to let it go, so that I may embrace that full spectrum rather than zooming in to the one space of the most pain. I could zoom out, see the black dot within the white, and the white dot within the black of the yin yang. See the balance, see the dark and light coming together to create the entire experience of shading, of dimensionality that we can see. We cannot experience 3D unless we can give perspective to form. So, I re-embrace the abstraction alongside the demon, in my heart, in my holding space. Right here, I hold them both, magically, magnificently, so beautifully. And then I let it all go, I let it all fall, I let it all drop. All the color, all the light erupted to the ground, emanated out into the world around us, and Hunter was gone, UFO was gone, and I looked around at the park I was in. There were a few people staring very strangely at me, and one dude was just applauding magnificently, like he had just witnessed the most magnificent, he had just had the most transcendent experience, and it was like, I knew in his eye that he had seen everything that I did. And then there was like a few parents who were just like looking at me like, what the fuck, there's kids here, as if they should be sheltered from whatever I just did, like it was offending them. The kids looked elated as well, just like the same glimmer as a man in his eyes. And then there's a few people walking past that just kind of like gave me looks of disapproval and annoyance. And I was just kind of sitting there wondering what in the world just happened. Yeah, it was a strange party. But certainly a fun one. Very fun one, indeed.